try today is make my slides simple since I'm the last and I want to start this one. So I'll start with this statement. We have a climate change caused by greenhouse gas emissions, most of it from human power and transportation infrastructure. And at the same time, we have 2 billion people live in an area that has emission difficulties. So we have to make it equal between both these areas. And I'm going basics, just definition that we all need to know, which is weather. Weather is basically what we check the weather every day. Like when you go to work, you open the window to see if it's raining or snowing. So that's what we call it weather, where the climate is this same meaning, but for a long time period, 20, 50, 30 years in the same area. Transportation, I think everyone knows what transportation is, but transportation basically what we mean here is like vehicle, truck, anything that's in the road under the seas or an air or plane. And this, I attached this video to show the relationship between transportation and climate change and how that impact the environment and our planet.
Transportation. Transportation refers to systems which are designed to move people and goods. It provides people with access to what they value and need to live their lives, build economies, and interact with the environment. Transportation is the backbone of a global network that trades over 18 trillion worth of goods and moves the world's population over 81 trillion kilometers every year. The system also impacts the climate. As of 2015, transportation accounted for 23% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions. One way to understand this complex system is by breaking it down into 3 different components: mode, fuel type, and technology. Modes of transportation allow people and goods to move across air, land, and sea. People often move by human power, cars and planes, while goods are transported by truck, rail, or ship. Fuel is the crucial element that propels the transportation system. The primary fuel types are derived from human power, renewable fuels, and fossil fuels. Different fuels, and how they are consumed, have distinct impacts on the climate and our air quality. When petroleum products are burned in vehicle engines, they release energy, but they also release greenhouse gases and other pollutants. Currently, 95% of transportation is fueled by petroleum. However, other fuels like electricity and biofuels are becoming increasingly prevalent as we adopt new technologies. Technology refers to what the vehicle uses to move, like an internal combustion engine in a gas car or an electric motor in an electric vehicle. Technologies vary greatly in efficiency. Efficiency determines how much of the fuel is actually used to propel a vehicle versus energy lost in the process. For instance, an average gasoline-fueled car is 25% efficient, meaning that 75% of the fuel used does not go into propelling the vehicle, but instead is lost as heat or other energy expenditures. When analyzing transportation options, it's important to consider what's possible with different combinations of modes, fuels, and technologies. One way to think about the climate impact of transportation is to calculate the amount of emissions per person or goods being transported.
So after we know the relationship between transportation and climate change, we found out transportation are the second primary sources of greenhouse gas emission after electricity. And for that reason, we want to know where that happened, what the main cause of that pollution. And we took UK as one of our case studies. And when we look at the UK, 85% of the England area are considered as rural area, as village or countryside. Where in this area, only 17% of this population live in this area. Where the urban area is only 15% of UK area, and 82% of their population lives in that's 15%. And imagine how the cities are crowded and how that's producing the greenhouse emissions. And when we look at the graphs on the side there, we look at the population in rural area has been decreasing for the last 10 years. It used to be above 11 million in the UK, and right now it's below 10. I think in 2022 is counted as 7 million people living in rural area. So the net equality between urban and rural area it causes urban threat, and that urban threat is causing huge consume of energy, and also a lot of production of greenhouse emissions from the vehicles, or from the automobile, and also the cause of environment hazard that we causing by congestion in these cities. The solution that I consider a lot better solution, but this solution that what I did some of it my research, some of it where I contributed, which is finding alternative transport system that's help the environment, and also providing active services like health services, groceries, services in rural areas, so we can make it equal with the urban area and encourage people to move from urban to rural area when they have all the service needed. And also to improve the quality of urban area. So start with the alternative transportation system, transport system. The first thing what we look at is integrate the technology what we have today, and one of the technology is the intelligent transportation system, which is the combination of information and communication technology, as you can see in the graph, where we can make vehicle infrastructure people to be connected in one area and communicate to each other. One of the applications of that technology is automated traffic management system, where it can manage the flow, and the flow is main resource of producing more emissions. When we have slow flow of traffic area, that when the vehicle is producing more emissions. And we did one of the study, we equipped a few vehicles with measurement of CO2 and measuring the speed. And we found that the less speed, the more emission the car produce, and the higher speed, the less emission we produce. And I think everyone knows from the fuel that we like gas and so on, if you coming in the highway, you have less consume of the fuel. And also we did another study to approve that, which is with a simulator, and we feed the simulator with the communication with that technology. And we found that the more connection between the vehicles, the less interrupted flow, which has smooth flow for the vehicles, which reduce the emission, CO emission. The second application is connected autonomous vehicles. I think that is deployed in 2025 or 2030, as the study shows. But we now look what do we mean by connected autonomous vehicle. And the graph shows the automation of the vehicle. Back in the 90s and 80s, we had zero level of automation of the vehicles. And what we have today is level 3, where we have little bit technology comparing what we're looking for, which is fully automation vehicles, as shown in level 5. And when we look at this technology, we have to consider 3 aspects, which is business model. We have to encourage the investors, the government, that will help the economy of that country or the economy of the company. And also we have to study the consumer. Like in any technology, when we try to deploy it, we study the behavior of the consumer or the user. And also connected with the current infrastructure status. These vehicles can be eligible to be deployed with the current infrastructure. One of the study I did is delivery surface using autonomous vehicle. We start with the delivery surface because of the liability of the idea. We don't want to put a human in an autonomous vehicle and anything happen, they're going to have high liability. So we start with the delivery surface as one of our studies. And we did we did the study in 2 areas. One of them is state of Hawaii, and the other one is Washington State. And what we did is we studied the rural areas that we selected, and then we provide that services to them as an autonomous without any input of a human. And what we found is that we have large potential of saving of traveling time, traveling costs, and also the pollution reduction. What I mean by that, most of the vehicles in rural area are trucks and old cars. That's producing more greenhouse gases. And also, which is the main point, is convince the investor is profitable business. Instead of hiring drivers or employees, just let the driver do it, let the vehicle do itself, and we're making a lot of money if we're doing that business. And we did even analysis in these 2 areas to show that is making more profitable than than the regular delivery service. And what we're working right now in Newcastle University is investigate the accessibility of automated public transportation and shared mobility in rural environment. And we focus our study in northeast of the other study that I did is complete streets. When we look at infrastructure, we try to make the current infrastructure better life, or high quality of life. So what I mean by complete city is to have lane for vehicle, lane for bike, lane for sidewalk, and tree. And that's what we call it complete city. And we started an initiative in Hawaii. It's called carbon-free transportation option. And we selected the main street in the city, and we designed it and we implemented that technology last year. And the interesting that we found, the rider bike are more comfortable to use the bike. And we did a survey on them, and they say this is better than before, because when you have a bicycle in regular lane, we don't feel safety to drive around. So we created them their own lane. And also the traffic doesn't change. It still has the same traffic, sometimes less than the regular 4 or 5 lanes. The conclusion, or the goal of this study, is to make the transportation more sustainable than it used to be, and also to encourage people, people that's electric vehicles, electric truck, and also the business to use autonomous vehicles, autonomous vehicles or electric vehicles, and also encouraging the people. And if you work or school, it's called from your home, just walk instead of taking your vehicle or taking the bus. And also reducing the congestion, which is making equal the urban life with the rural life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. So I believe that brings us to the end of our sort of formal